Good Erev Shabbos. This week's Torah portion, this week's Parshas HaShavua is Teitzei, and it begins with a very bizarre and peculiar teaching, and that is the Parsha of the Yifas Toar. So the basic understanding of the Parsha of the Yifas Toar is somebody that goes into battle and finds a female captive that's very attractive to him, and he wants to have a relationship with him. So the Torah teaches us the process in terms of what is permitted, the do's and don'ts of having a relationship with this female captive Yifas Toar. He brings her home, and he's not allowed to be intimate with her right away, and only after a certain period of time he's able to be intimate with her and marry her, and so on and so forth. And this is a little bit of a head scratcher. Not only the reason why this is chosen in the beginning of the parsha, but the thrust of the teaching itself. You would think that from a basic moral compass, when somebody has a temptation such as this, the Torah should advise such a person, not just advise that person, but command that person just to turn away from any, as in with many other temptations that we're just commanded to just turn away. So why, when it comes to such a severe moral temptation, does there seem to be some equivocation on the part of the Torah in terms of its guidance towards the soldier? And Rashi famously quotes the passage of the Talmud, which is Lo Dibra Torah Ela Keneged Yetzer Hara, that the Torah realizes that the basic, the more expanded unpacking of this verse means that God in His infinite wisdom knew that if we were just to be told a big fat no when somebody was faced with such a temptation, it wouldn't be tenable and wouldn't be sustainable. So therefore, we had to manage the situation in a way where somebody can still manage his kedusha, manage his holiness, his morality, at the same time while being a human being. And therefore, there's a specific prescription of the do's and don'ts in this particular situation. But I think what we can take away from this section in a much more expanded view in terms of trying to influence the next generation as parents and educators, many times we have values that we want to impart to our children and students, and we see them getting involved in things that perhaps they should not be getting involved in, and we try to give them in one way or another a big fat no. And something that we see from this week's parsha is that, as the famous Piaseczna Rabbi writes in his landmark writings of Chovas HaTalmidim, the obligations of how to impart values to your students and your children, he says that many people forget about the second verse of a famous verse, meaning the famous verse is in Mishlei, in Proverbs. Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon, says, Chanochel nar al pi darko, educate the child according to his way. But what we sometimes forget is the second part of the verse, which is Gam ki yazkun lo yosur mimenu. Even when he gets older, he will not turn away from these values. If we're just focused on the commands and the verbal instruction, and we're not focused on the end goal, many times by the commands and the verbal instruction, the child will eventually tune us out. So we have to be very thoughtful and very methodical in terms of our parenting and in terms of our educating, in terms of trying to impart our most sacred values into the next generation, to realize how are we going to get to that second part of Gam ki yaskin lo yasur man, even when the child gets older, he won't turn away. And that's something that we can take away from this passage of Yifas Toar. So folks, as we prepare for the upcoming Yom Noraim, the holy days of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, once again, it behooves us to think about the best way to impart our most sacred values to our children and students. So let us always remember this important lesson at the beginning of this week's Parsha. Have a wonderful Shabbos.